Cheap Seats, The Cincinnati Gardens, Professional Basketball, 1959, by William Matthews. Project done by Kelsey Cottrell, Chloe Trevino, and Patrick Lozon. The less we paid, the more we climbed. Tendrils of smoke blazed just as high and hung there, blue, particulate, the opposite of dew. We saw the whole court from up there. Few girls had come, few wives, numerous boys in molt like me. Our heroes leapt and surged and looped, and 2 nights of 3, like us, they'd lose. But like us is wrong. We had no result 3 nights out of 3. So we had heroes. And we is wrong, for I knew none by name among that hazy company unless I brought her with me. This was loneliness with noise, unlike the kind I had at home, with no clock running down and mirrors. This poem is a sonnet that reflects the Italian structure. It has an octave and a sestet. We will start by explaining the dramatic situation of the poem. In the first line of the opening section, the speaker is saying that the less you pay for tickets to a sporting event, the higher the seats are. Thus, the more you would have to climb to get to them. The speaker proceeds to explain that there is smoke in the air and that it is very dry where he is sitting. He says, the opposite of dew, which enhances the image of dryness in the environment he is in. In the second section of the poem, the speaker starts out by explaining how he could see the whole basketball court from where he was sitting. He explains that there are few women at the game, but many men in molt. Molt describes men who are losing hair, therefore pointing out that the men attending were probably an older generation. The speaker also describes the basketball team as heroes. He explains how they leap and surge and loop while they play. He also points out that the team loses 2 nights out of 3. This indicates that the team loses most nights, therefore probably not very good. In the same section, the speaker states, like us. We ran into a WTF moment because the reader does not know who us is or what they are losing. We also see that the speaker includes himself and others in the crowd he is talking about. As the speaker continues, he speaks about how he and others have no results and continue to lose 3 nights out of 3. That is why they have heroes to look up to, which is the team. As we go into the next section, we found a second WTF moment. He previously seemed to be very comfortable in the setting he is in. Yet, he claims he could only know these people by name if she was there. We are assuming the she he is referring to is a significant other, wife, or girlfriend. But again, this is a WTF moment. In the final lines of the poem, the speaker describes that he felt loneliness among the noise of the stadium. He also describes that he feels loneliness at home, where there is not any running clocks or mirrors. We see in this last section of the poem that the sestet is an effort at resolution. Our group concluded that the speaker of the poem is an older man who is attending a basketball game in the nosebleed seats. He has a significant other, either a wife or a girlfriend, however feels unsatisfied with her and lonely in life. The initial audience of the poem does not seem to be a specific person or group of people, but instead we interpreted it as an audience and is eavesdropping on this man's personal thoughts. Based on the title of the poem, setting is assumed to be in the Cincinnati Gardens Arena. This was an indoor basketball arena in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is also where the poet William Matthews resided.
And now we'll move on to a deeper analysis of the poem. The first line, the less we paid, the more we climbed, can be taken quite literal, meaning the less you pay for the seats at a stadium, concert, or event, the worse they tend to be. It is used to relate to the speaker's life. The less he contributes or tries, the worse his life seems. The second line reading, tendrils of smoke lays just as high and hung there, blue, particulate, the opposite of dew. The word tendrils demonstrates how life is like a vine for him. It grows and grows and goes on, and yet just hangs there. It hints that there's no significance to his life. And the color blue is a reference to his emotions, and how life is just dry. The next line reads, we saw the whole court from up there. Few girls had come, few wives, numerous boys in molt, like me. Here the speaker is looking down from the nosebleeds and sees things from a different perspective, versus those who are sitting courtside. He explains how he can see the whole court. This demonstrates how, like in life, he watches things happen from afar. He is not involved in action firsthand, but instead watches life go by. The speaker describes the men around him as similar to himself, displaying that he doesn't feel like he's going through this alone. The next line, our heroes leapt and surged and looped, and 2 nights out of 3, like us, they'd lose. Here the speaker is describing the basketball players as his heroes as they leap surge, and loop. The speaker introduces the phrase like us, relating the people he looks up to as similar to himself. The team lost the series that they played 2 games out of 3, and just like the speaker loses at more things in life than what he wins at. The speaker goes on to explain, but like us is wrong. We had no result 3 nights out of 3, so we had heroes. This is the first introduction of the theme of loneliness seen within the speaker. He says that we is wrong, and that he knew no one. Earlier in the poem, he repeatedly referred to the people he was around as us, which made us as readers think he felt he could relate to those. However, he obviously feels no community among these people. He continues by saying, and we is wrong, for I knew none by name, among that hazy company, unless I brought her with me. This is ultimately a WTF moment for our group. He does refer to the fact that he knew someone by name if he brought this unfamiliar her with him. This is another reference to the fact that he is passive within his life. When he brought her with him, he knew people because of her, but no one knows him. The last line of the poem reads, this was loneliness with noise, unlike the kind I had at home, with no clock running down and mirrors. The loneliness he feels in the stadium relates to the loneliness he feels at home. The difference is that the speaker points out between how he feels at home and how he feels during the game are very important to the underlying meaning of this poem. At the game there is noise, people cheering on their teams, a sense of happiness, while at home that's not the case. At home there is only a lonely silence. At home there is no end to this loneliness compared to a game where there is a time clock counting down until the buzzer sounds the end. The overall metaphor of this poem is the comparison of buying cheap tickets to a basketball game to that of one's life. The less effort one puts into life itself, the less they'll get out of it. Like the less one pays for a ticket, the worse the view and the seats will be. In addition, when one puts less effort into life, they watch other people experience life. They do so from a distance instead of being in the action themselves. The poem displays very important aspects of form that contribute to the underlying meaning behind the metaphor. It shows an ABBA-CDDC slant rhyme scheme for the octave. The sestet, however, shies away from the traditional pattern. The last 6 lines show disorder and distress as the speaker begins to show and hints at remorse and frustration he has experienced. A second important form of structure found throughout the poem is the rhythm. Each line consistently has 10 syllables and almost follows iambic pentameter perfectly. While this is an aspect of most sonnets, in this case, it allows the poem to sound monotonous, highlighting the speaker's dull and unsatisfactory life.